Hello, everyone.
We're live.
We're live.
Recorded, though.
I screwed up too much.
We're live and in person for ourselves, but for you, it's a recording.
For you, it's a recording.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Why is this?
We'll get there, you 14 listeners, though.
We will.
One day.
Our listeners have been, the number of listeners has not increased, but the frequency at which the listeners listen has been increasing.
Interesting.
Like I can go into the Substack and see who listens to what.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Individual?
Yeah, like individually based off their email, like the alias that they either, it'll assign them an email alias or it'll just actually have their email.
Okay.
Shout out Calvin. He's one of our most consistent listeners.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Shouts out.
We're really sorry if you're schizophrenic and we were making fun of you the other episode.
Yeah.
Schizophrenic people still made in the image of God, and we apologize.
Yes, we do apologize. Dude, did you know that if you sit with a schizophrenic person and talk to them long enough, you can reduce the level of schizophrenia that they experience? Like you can make a schizophrenic person better by talking to them,
interacting with humans.
Well, talking to them so that they can organize what it is they're trying to say.
Oh, okay.
So you can
more or less therapy. Just talking through.
Yeah, like talk therapy is incredibly beneficial for schizophrenic people because there's something in their head that they're trying to tell you.
Okay.
You know, like when they're like, "Did you meet Devin? He's got a pizza over there and there's 7 knives." And I said, "Don't touch me, man, but they're coming for me. And I know they're out there." Like if you talk to that guy long enough,
it might
and keep asking him questions,
help formulate a little more sense.
He will eventually, over many months, be able to tell you what he's trying to say. And once he can do that, I don't know that it cures their schizophrenia,
right?
But it very significantly reduces
improves their quality of life and functionality.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find some schizophrenic people to talk to then.
When I was yeah, you should. When I was
right after this is done, I'm heading down to the bus station.
Yeah. Just hang around downtown long enough.
It won't take long.
Yeah. Well, our downtown will probably take forever.
Yes.
There's one homeless guy down there.
There's one in Henderson, actually.
Okay.
Who's always shouting at traffic going by.
Yeah.
I can't understand what he says ever, but he rides a 3-wheeled bicycle. So
Sick.
An adult tricycle.
Sick.
And just, you see him all over town shouting at cars that go by, not angrily.
Yo, what's up? What's good?
My first morning in town where I'd driven all night in the moving truck.
Yeah.
And then I had to have somebody from ABC Auto come and jump the truck because it died in the parking lot when I went to pick up the keys for the house I was trying to get into.
Excellent.
That dude walked by. I was like, "Rah!" From across the street. Yeah. And the ABC Auto Parts guy was like, "Yeah, we have 2 of those guys in town." And he just waves back at the guy and is like, "Hi, good morning." And I was like, wow, the homeless are very different here than in the Portland area.
Small town homelessness is
homelessness. They're like, "Yeah, that's Jerry."
Yeah. Way more charming, way more benign than big city homelessness. Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this was a culture shock.
Yeah.
A really pleasant one.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, when I was I was a teenager, I might have been 20, but I was dating this girl, and I was at her apartment one day, and I don't remember what I was doing, but her and her brother came inside. They were outside. They came inside. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's how inside-outside works, but
good to know.
Yeah, they came inside. They were very frantic. They were like, "This guy's out there. He's really weird. He tried to touch my little brother. I don't know what to do." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll go." I was like, "Is he being aggressive?" And they were like, "Kinda." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll go talk. I'll." Because he was hovering around the door. I was like, "Yeah." So I'll go. I'll go out there and address it. Just call the police. They'll come.
Yeah.
Help us out, and I'll talk to him. And so I don't know what my girlfriend at the time said to the police, but it took them forever to get there. It took them 45 minutes.
Didn't make it sound too urgent, though.
Yeah, I don't even know if she called 911. She might have just called the police office
directly. She was just on hold half that time.
Yeah, something like that. And so I just sat out there talking to him, trying to keep him distracted. Because he was he was very irate at first. Okay. It was just the apartment was one building that had a courtyard in the middle, and everybody had lived there for a long time. And so there was like one guy who would come out and play music and sit and drink, and he was just this like old retired dude. And that guy just his like presence created this like community of people who came out and just like hung out in the courtyard around the apartment with each other.
Yeah?
And so he was just like very much interrupting that vibe.
This guy was?
Yeah, this guy was. And so
Okay.
I was just like, all right, come here, come sit on this like stairs far away from everybody. And everybody's really concerned. So I just like sat with him and talked to him for like 45 minutes. And about 15 minutes in to having a conversation with him, I could tell that he was actually saying something. I was like, there's some kind of thread here. Like there's a narrative that you're trying to communicate to me.
Trying to get out.
Yeah. And so I just like kept asking him questions and just kept being like, oh, okay, it's cool. What was that? And like anytime there was anything I could latch onto that was like a name he had mentioned previously, and it was like the same name again, I was like, oh, tell me about that person. And he'd start whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he'd get off a little bit. Well, then they said this. And then my mom was there and oh, Devin, he's got whatever, you know. And so like, I just worked with him for like
Did he
40
actually say Devin?
No, not that guy. There was a really schizophrenic dude in Austin when I was like 17.
Yeah.
That me and my friend ran across. We gave him a pizza, and he told us about Devin and some sort of hitmen that were coming for him or whatever. We didn't talk to him for that long. We just gave him pizza. So that's always the one that stuck in my head.
Okay. He talked about Devin?
He talked about Devin.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But this guy did not talk about Devin. This guy's thing was his mom. He was really, it's actually quite heartbreaking. His mom had passed away, and he did not have the mental faculty to deal with that
At all.
that sadness and that loss.
This guy you talked to outside the apartments?
Yeah. And so he had no capacity to mourn his mother. And so he didn't have anywhere in his mind to like put his feet down to get solidity so that he could be like, okay, my name's John. This is my room. This is my bed. The sky is blue. My mom is dead. I can kind of start to work through that. What does that mean? Why do I feel this way? Like he had no capacity to do that. And so after 45 minutes, I got him completely calmed down, and he had gone from being like totally irate, nonsensical, could not from the beginning of one sentence to the end of the other, they were not attached thoughts, totally distracted, to speaking in full sentences.
Wow.
Yeah, so but by the time the cops got there, he was able to like communicate with them and be like, yeah, I have a medication that I'm supposed to take.
I'm not on it.
I'm not on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
That's when they meet people.
Yeah.
That's when we met them as paramedics too.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Weird. Oh, so you
Oh,
said
you too.
Yeah. You thought you were going to be fine.
We just came from somebody else's place, and they also were not on the medication that keeps them from doing this.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, it makes them feel terrible.
Yes,
so
it does.
there's a reason why people with mental problem type of medications go off of it, because it makes them like a zombie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like chemical
Neutering.
lobotomies.
Lobotomies, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, of course
Yeah.
you don't want to be on that.
Yeah, I mean,
But at the same time, it's like, then you go nuts.
we got rid of asylums.
It's really hard.
We got rid of asylums, and so we had to put these people in chemical asylum. Can just have
Out
them
on the street.
Yeah, out on the street. Yeah, so it is interesting to talk to like a really schizophrenic person, because there's lore behind their life, you know, like they got there somehow, like to that position where they're sitting there talking to you. They have a story of like, I was born, I went to school here, my parents are named this and that, they're from this area. Like they have the exact same story you have, and if you can just like, apparently, according to the research, I mean, I don't know, you know, I've had this told to me by a medical professional.
Oh, see, I thought this was all your field research you were talking about.
No.
Personal experience
No,
from years and years
I don't want to rep
of talking with schizophrenic people.
I just don't want to rep like I know what I'm talking about, really.
Yes, no, I think that's wise that we're not this.
Yeah.
This podcast is not that.
Yeah.
Everything we say is stuff that we've either experienced, so it's anecdotal,
Yeah.
or it is something we read
Right. And
or
understand.
heard loosely third person.
Yeah.
We're like, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
I'll spew that as fact on Work Hard.
I'll go spread disinformation.
Yes.
Yeah, so apparently if you talk to the schizophrenics long enough, you can just make them not schizophrenic. But also,
Totally cured.
Totally cure. You can totally
Can you
cure
do
them.
that
They're
with
totally
gays
safe. You do it with gays? I think you have to shock them. I think that's what happen with gays. I think you have to apply electricity to their brain.
That escalated really fast. Anyway, just not advocating electroshock therapy.
I'm advocating for it.
Okay.
Hold them down, too. You don't even ask for their permission. No, I'm just kidding. Don't shock gay people.
Did you?
That's
That's not what they need.
not,
They do need something.
they do need something.
Pray for them and be kind to them, but don't shock them.
Yeah. Yes. So today's topic, guys, we'll just hard transition. Usually I try to have some sort of
blending.
yeah,
into,
whatever,
Nope.
but we'll just hard transition.
Toss the blending pencil
Yeah,
away.
I have no idea how to transition from schizophrenics to today's topic. So, and we're at the 10-minute mark, so we just have to make a hard transition.
Yeah. Small talk over with.
Small talk over with. Jason and I are now done being friends. We're just back to being
Just
co-hosts.
co-workers.
Yep, just co-workers. Today's topic, one near and dear to my heart, because I have a lot of personal experience with suffering the consequences of this thing, and then also I've got several people that are very close to me who have a hard time with this, but it's acceptance and submission. And I think, honestly, when I texted you and told you the topic, I kind of thought I might revise it to just saying addressing fear and anxiety that causes inaction. So like analysis paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
I think acceptance and submission are the solution to those things, but I think the topic really is addressing inaction.
Inaction,
or even counterproductive behavior that seems productive. There's somebody very close to me who has a real issue with thinking that just because this person's doing something, it's helping. Just because something,
right?
Just because I'm
any
moving
action, the idea that any action is better than non-action.
Yeah, which I mean, I think that almost any action is better than non-action.
Almost.
Yeah. But there's
it is better than apathy. At least it's not apathy.
Yeah.
To the point where or analysis paralysis like you're talking about. But you could make backwards progress by.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a whole different thing about how you react to the. Sometimes you get started on a project and you make a mistake in the project because you didn't do enough research, and then you have to go back and do all of it again. It costs you time and money.
Right.
But it's good that you actually got started.
Right.
As long as you don't then give up and go, I'm terrible at this.
Right. Well,
if your takeaway is, I should have done a little bit more research.
Then you learn something.
You've learned something.
Yeah.
And you are going to make mistakes. So that's different. Yeah. So
It
that's
is
the kind of
also-
action that's helpful, even if it is for a couple moments you're going backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say even if you are not doing the thing that you are trying to do, whatever it is, build a fence, write a book, do a project at work. If you're sitting there doing nothing, twiddling your thumbs, and then the action you take ends up being counterproductive, if that counterproductive action is the catalyst for you continuing to work, to actually getting the job, actually starting to do the project, then it was ultimately the correct thing to do. So
yes, it's helpful because it got you off your duff.
Right, it got you off your duff.
It made your hand move.
Right.
Made you get outside.
Right, it got the momentum started, which is a huge deal.
Writing that first sentence,
even
when
badly.
you're writing a thesis or writing even that little 3-paragraph paper.
Yeah,
you remember the 3-paragraph or the 5-paragraph essay?
Yep.
Yeah.
The themes. Did you guys call them themes? We called them themes.
I just remember the 5-paragraph essay. There was introduction, then 3 body paragraphs, 3 points you were supposed to make, and elaborate on, and then the conclusion.
Yes,
which I hated the conclusion.
I
felt like I was just repeating the 3 bodies in summary.
That
is what you're doing, but
writing those and history were the only things that I liked in school. Everything else I didn't like. I didn't like math until later in life.
I liked algebra a lot.
Really?
It's just problem solving.
Right. That's true. That is very.
So there was like a very I don't know. You just went through. It was simple math. It was a bunch of simple math
Yeah.
in a pattern.
Yeah.
Like a puzzle. That's all
Yeah.
it was.
Algebra
So,
is definitely the funnest math. Well, I guess is algebra whatever, doesn't matter.
I think that's solving for x. That's what I'm associating
Yeah.
with algebra.
Yeah,
There's a big
I like
equation on either
statistics.
side of the equal sign, and you have to narrow them down.
Yeah, that's true. I'm first of all, everybody, hello. I'm very tired. I've had a roller coaster of a week. Screamed that, sorry. Roller coaster of a week. Followed by staying up late foolishly last night, so I'm really tired. So I'm going to be leaning here on Jason to help me keep everything not convoluted. So the analysis paralysis in action, I think in many ways is worse than, well, it is worse. It is worse than doing the wrong thing. Unless you do the wrong thing and then make it worse and then continue doing that and go, oh, well, whatever, and give up.
Right, because then you're back to a worse position than you started in.
Right.
And what you took from it was, because I failed at all, I made a mistake, therefore I am a failure, and I shouldn't. I'd be better off if I didn't do it at all.
Right. Which is what I did with writing for years.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. And honestly, I would say I wasted a ton of time, but that would be one counter the point I would try to make on this episode, but also I just wasn't ready to write anything. Like all my stuff, even from a couple years ago, is so ungood. It's
trash.
Yeah, it's dog crap, terrible. But,
Well, the again, going back to Sass's stories are soul food.
yeah,
Andy Wilson talks about that, about his early stuff. He goes, every writer's early stuff is garbage.
yeah,
He's like, you do not put out your first stuff for the world to see. Like,
Yeah.
that's for you to cut your teeth and
yeah,
figure out what you're going to be about
yeah,
and figure out writing styles, imitating other great writers, so that you, just like in music, you are playing other people's. You don't start out composing.
right,
You play hit songs.
yeah,
You learn classical music. You learn from the best, and then you can riff off of that and change little things as you get more experienced. Which he compares that to writing in the same way.
yeah,
You imitate C.S. Lewis, you imitate Tolkien, you imitate whoever else,
yeah, yeah,
and then once you're really good at that, you kind of find your own feet. Comedians, I've heard talk about that too. They'll go through a
Yes.
phase where they like kind of, or they can't even watch another comedian because they know they'll start doing them.
Yeah. I try. I try not to listen to podcasts on the way here.
So that
Yeah, so I don't like imitate somebody's voice or like just like regurgitate word for word whatever information they.
yeah, that's why I try not to. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm worried I'll do that with Sass because I refer to them so much and I enjoy their podcast so much.
I mean we're in the early stages of
We're cutting our
broadcasting.
teeth.
Yeah, we're cutting our teeth.
Yeah, sorry y'all. Guess we should have just done this for a couple years without ever posting it.
Yeah.
But what was our listener's name? What's the top listener?
I think it's Calvin.
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 Okay. Thanks for being there for us
Yeah,
in the
thanks,
early
bud.
stages, Calvin.
Yeah, thanks for the support.
You're gonna get the first T-shirt if
Yeah.
you stick around
Yeah.
whenever those come.
Yeah. Well, when the hyper premium offices finally open, I'll fly you out, give you a tour. When the hyper premium offices open over our pub,
Yes.
then we'll give you a beer and give you a tour.
What
So
a glorious day that will be.
not a glorious day it will be. Inching ever closer.
Yep.
So let's see. How do I want to attack this? Let's start with the acceptance angle.
So just to state the whole thing, I don't know if you
Okay.
stated the entire subject.
Okay.
Maybe you did, but let's reiterate it.
Acceptance.
The cure for inaction or analysis paralysis is
Acceptance and submission.
acceptance and submission
Yes.
to
The Lord.
the Lord,
The only thing you can accept and submit.
not to your wife.
I will not to your wife. Certainly not to your wife. I will make this caveat. Jason you may not like this. How about you may
or your mother if you're at home.
Yeah, or
that's
your mother
important too.
if you're at home.
I'm sorry, really quick. You do need to submit to your mother because you are under her authority, because she's under your father's authority.
Right.
So she is if you're living at home, you owe her a lot of respect and submission, even if you're a semi-adult man.
Yeah.
And you need to leave home if you're going to completely clear yourself of that.
Right. Certainly. Yeah, she is the queen of that castle. So
yes.
you need to conduct yourself as such. I will add this caveat because I know that, maybe not all of our listeners are Christians, or maybe they're nominal Christians. And so I think if you start to accept and submit in general, you will find yourself leaning more and more to the world of Christianity, because your pride will start to diminish. And as your pride diminishes, you will find that the things you thought were logical objections to God's existence or to the existence of the Christian God, those things are
really
not
just emotional.
Yeah, they're
resistance.
Emotional and prideful. They're not logical.
Amen.
Yeah, and so if you practice some acceptance and submission, then those emotions will start to subside and you can think actually logically. So I will say that if you are not a Christian, just think of this in terms of the universe more broadly, fate in general, the fact that you cannot possibly determine the time of your own death. I mean, I guess you could, but even then, I don't think you are operating outside the confines of, like, you were always going to do that if that's the path you choose to go down. So just submission in general, we are speaking specifically in submission to God, the God of the Bible. But if you want to table it in terms of submitting to some sort of miasmic, removed thing, I don't particularly think that that's an intelligent way of going about it. But if that's what you want to do, please do so in order to get the point that I'm trying to make here. Just a little qualification. Jason and I are Calvinists by the nature of our covenantal sort of traditional.
Pretty cool if our listener is named Calvin.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. What's up, Calvin? Shouts out again, dude. Big Calvin episode.
This is the Calvin episode.
This is the Calvin episode.
Please comment, dude.
Yes.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Shoot us an email, hyperpremium@protonmail. Follow us on Instagram, hyperpremiummag.
We are Calvinists.
Yes, we are Calvinists. So that means that we believe pretty strongly in the sovereignty of the Lord and his direct active action in the world.
Pretty strongly.
Yeah, pretty strongly. So there's a pretty good argument to make that Calvinists do not believe in free will. That
depends on how you define free will.
Right.
You are free to do what you want to do. You're free to choose what you want to do. The thing is that people will never actually choose without external pressure. They will never choose what they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And because our hearts are inclined to do what is selfish and sinful, without God's external action on you, you will always choose something that is for you and not self-sacrificing.
Yeah.
Nobody will self-sacrifice unless their heart has been changed to be able to do so by God. That's
right.
what we mean by free will.
Right. So another way you could think about this is psychologically, you could view, I kind of break the human psyche down into three parts, which I think is pretty traditional in the psychological world, which is your will, that's your subconscious, the part of your being that's far more complex than the conscious part of your mind. It's way deeper, it's way more powerful, and it's completely outside of your control. It's your will. Then you have your mind, which would be sort of like the Freudian ego, but your mind is the sort of speaking voice that you hear constantly, the passenger that you feel like you have inside of your head. That's your mind. And then there's you, which is the little observer that I've talked about in the past. That is the three parts of the of what I view, of how I view the human psyche. And the way that I kind of table this to people is that the human experience is one of being at sea. So you are on a boat. You, the little observer, is on a boat, the mind, inside on the ocean, which is the will. The ocean, the weather around it, everything outside the boat is your will, is your subconscious mind. Now, if you are disordered, whether that be because you're not a believer or you have some sort of malfunction or whatever, you got molested, I don't know, but if you're disordered in some way, your will is bound to your flesh, it's bound to sin, and it's just creating this hurricane that you just exist in all the time on the boat. There's just constant storms. So you cannot direct the boat to go anywhere. You have no ability to decide, I want to go to the islands, I want to go north, I want to go south. You're just totally at the mercy of this uncaring storm whose only concern is causing chaos. There seems to be, through common grace, some ability for non-Christians to achieve relative calm of that storm without God's grace, without God's salvation. I would say that God's salvation and his work in you ultimately brings you to a place where the storm becomes calm enough that you gain the ability to set sail and aim that boat somewhere and point yourself in directions and go places where you gain control. Now you're still at the mercy of the will, which is an ocean, which will sometimes have storms, even if it's a calm, reasonable ocean. You're still going to have doldrums. You're still going to have things that you have no ability to have any influence over. But that is all up to God, ultimately, your experience. And so you're really not, even in the realm of having like quote unquote free will, you're still not free to conduct yourself as you see fit completely. If that makes sense.
Okay.
And I think you could extrapolate this back out to what Jason was saying, which is that and the Bible's very clear about this. You are a slave to something. The Bible's very clear. You are a slave to something.
Everybody is.
Everybody is.
You can't not serve something.
Yeah. And that means being a slave means you do not have freedom. So you can be a slave to chaos or you can be a slave to order. And that really is the short and quick of it. There's no other way around that. And so how does all this tie into acceptance?
There are two kinds of people in this world.
Yeah, there are. There are two kinds of people. There are people that are slaves to order, people that are slaves to chaos.
Yeah.
And there is the how does this tie into acceptance and submission? The only way to gain access to order, the only way to gain access to the peace and liberty that comes with order is to submit to the fact that you have no control. You cannot, you barely, we know this scientifically, we know the scriptures explain this, just said the slavery thing. We know this in a psychological level. Human beings do not honestly have that much control over themselves.
Are you talking about life circumstances and all that?
Well, just even in your day-to-day behavior, whether you choose to masturbate to pornography or go give your wife a hug, those are like, you think that you're deciding to do those things consciously, but that is not. By the time you make the decision to go do one of those things consciously, that's already been set. You're just experiencing a sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. Again, this is where I might need your help to not get too convoluted, but you are not, how to say this. God exists outside of time.
Yes.
And you don't even need to appeal to God. Okay. The universe was designed. That's irrefutable. Even the most staunch atheistic neo-Darwinist types now openly admit that the biology is a fact of design. It's just not possible to evolve it. It's just not possible. It can't occur naturally. And so everybody admits,
really,
yeah, it's over. The Darwinism thing, evolution, it's over. It's done. It was dead in the 90s. Now people are starting to accept it. It's over. There's just no cell on the cellular level inside of the cell.
The Big Bang part.
The Big Bang part
is nothing.
Well, the Big Bang part is part of the intelligent design argument, because the idea that the odds of something occurring, like of the human being evolving from a bug over a few billion years, are incredibly minute. They're impossible. It's impossible.
Right.
The only way that it would be possible is if there's infinite universes.
Right, which is why they started saying that.
Right. I don't remember
eventually something would have to come out this way.
Right. And so the argument is that nothing was created because everything already existed. That was their argument for a long time.
Really?
Was that
they had no... Okay, everything just existed forever.
Right. All matter existed forever. There's no beginning and there's no end.
Which is the same as believing in God.
Right. So they're making a religious argument. They're just making
there's
material. It's a material. It's a religious.
They're taking God out of God.
Right. It's materialism. But
they say, well, yeah, we believe something always existed, that there is eternity.
Right.
So they're acknowledging eternity, and they're acknowledging that things don't have to have a beginning.
Right.
But they're saying physical stuff, everything on Earth that we see that does obviously end, everything breaks down.
Right.
Rusts.
Yeah, they would say it's all in a transitionary state. All matter is not, it's not that the actual building blocks of the thing don't break down. The thing itself breaks down and it transitions to another thing.
Gotcha. Sure. I mean, that's true.
The Big Bang, you
can't destroy matter.
Right.
It transitions states.
Something
so
else.
You burn it up and it becomes gases and,
right.
and other things.
And that gas at a certain point starts to re-solidify and becomes dirt and more material and whatever.
Combines with sunlight to
pressure
stuff.
makes it So
yep.
But the Big Bang, it looks like it did occur. They can measure light distances, like the wavelength of red light changes as it gets further away or something. I don't remember exactly what the thing is, but they can remodel the universe to see how it's expanding, and if you can see it expanding outwardly, then you just rewind the model and it expands inwardly back to a certain point, and then it explodes outward, almost as if somebody said,
"Let there be light."
Let there be light, and then it exploded out.
Almost,
yeah,
as
almost as if. So,
but we just want to say it just has occurred.
Yeah, it just has occurred. So anyways,
why would somebody say that, Ethan?
Because they want to be in charge of themselves. They want free will. They don't want to be at they do not want to live
freedom, not liberty.
Yeah, they want freedom, not liberty. They want yes, exactly. They want to be at the reins of their own life, which they are not. So
what you're saying is they're not accepting.
They are not accepting.
And they're not submitting?
They're not accepting the reality that they are a slave to something, and they are not submitting.
This is like tying back into that thing you said.
Yes. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. They are not accepting, and they're not submitting. And so I'm trying to think about what I've said to my wife a couple times, because my wife has dealt with this. She's a worrier.
Problems with submitting.
Yes. Well, not. Yeah. She's had. She finds submitting in our marriage much easier because I'm standing there. I'm like physically present.
Yeah.
But submitting to like
he's big and scary.
Yeah. I see all the scars on his hands. I know what he's like. I do. That's listeners. You guys can't know, but you guys can't see this. But I don't have my pinky knuckle on my right hand. It's gone. It's called a boxer's fracture. It's from throwing too many punches. That's what that scar's from.
contacting with the wrong part of your hand, huh?
Yep. It turns out you cannot full force as hard as you want punch someone in the crown of their skull.
No, you have to. First two knuckles is where you're supposed to contact with.
That's what that's part of what they teach you. But like, who's the there's a UFC fighter. Oh my goodness, everybody's favorite guy right now, Pereira, Alex Pereira. He KO'd a champion that no one liked and took his belt. Whatever, everybody likes him. He punches. He makes contact with his pinky.
Oof.
Yeah, and it's. But I mean, they talk about how that's like. The bone there is a little bit more fragile, but the actual like support you have through your
it's
arm,
in line with the
with the rest of your arm, so you have a lot more support there. So that's up in the air, but that's neither here nor there.
Wife submission.
Yes, thank you. You're on it today, dude. What I've said to Emily is that you can thrash against the fact that God is totally in control and is making every decision about every little aspect of life, including yours.
And it'll be really uncomfortable. And you'll hate every minute of life.
Yeah, it'll be really uncomfortable. You'll hate every minute of life.
And it'll change exactly how many things?
Zero. Your life will occur exactly as it was supposed to occur anyways. You'll just be uncomfortable.
Because that's what it's like, not actually having control.
Right.
Have you ever seen a baby throw a tantrum?
Yeah. I'm not putting you
zero
down.
Control. Yeah.
You are not getting more ice cream.
You are not stronger than me. You cannot, unless I allow you to.
Yeah, exactly. And so you really, you can thrash as much as you want, but all you're doing is creating discomfort for yourself. The life is going to occur exactly the same way.
Possibly annoyance for God.
Maybe. Maybe.
Well, I mean, in the fact that he does grow angry with Israel.
Yes.
So, I mean, not annoyance like petty human annoyance, like we get annoyed with, like, will you stop it? It's so loud.
Right.
About to tear my hair out.
Yes. But a justifiable annoyance. Yeah. So,
holy anger, I think I like better than annoyance.
Yes.
God has holy anger over our disobedience.
Absolutely.
And our thrashing.
Yes. And so my wife and I, for a long time, for a year or so, that was the big thing she was working on, and she's gotten a lot better at it. Is chilling out. And so my wife was constantly like, and it was easier for her because I got to use the analogy of our marriage. So we used to,
right,
in the car, to make it practical, one of the things that she used to really struggle with is gasping and reacting in the car to something she perceived as being almost dangerous or being dangerous. And so like there were a couple times it was,
you're like, it's predestination, babe, as you weave through traffic and like blow stop signs.
If we're gonna die, we're gonna die.
But God's gonna keep me living as long as He wants.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do to change.
If I was sitting on the couch, I'd be in the exact same amount of danger.
Yeah,
that is reckless. That is reckless. That is a joke.
Yeah, that is a joke.
Don't tell your wife that. And
yeah, but I don't remember what it was. It's like a stoplight or something, and I just knew that I didn't have to brake.
Yeah.
And so I just hadn't pushed on the brake, and the cars were coming up, and I braked, and she like grabbed she's like, grabbed the door handle or whatever, grabbed one of the handles in the car. And I looked at her and went, thank goodness you grabbed that handle. We would have crashed. Had you not grabbed that handle and gasped, we would have crashed. Thank goodness you grabbed that handle and gasped. And for a second, she was furious.
I was like, it's a good thing you were really gentle with how you told her this.
Yeah, she was furious.
It sounds like all the fault was on her end.
But after we got out of the car, she laughed. She thought it was funny. She knew the joke was funny, and that really helped her start to be like, oh yeah, like I'm only adding to the problem. Like the thing that I often it
startles you and then you actually crash.
Right. Yes, exactly. It's like,
don't do that.
Dude, you watch these fight videos on the internet of like dudes getting in street fights and their girlfriends getting in the way, like, no, stop.
And then they get
like,
punched.
Trying to grab him and like get in the way of his arm or whatever, and then he gets knocked out because his dumb girlfriend is getting in the way. And dude, that is what you're doing. Except you're not even, like, God's not going to get KO'd, obviously. So, like, you're not even doing that. You're not even that effective. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that by, like, interjecting yourself.
Don't distract God or Satan might KO him.
Yeah. Obviously, foolish thought. Like, that's not all what I'm saying. But, like, if your sort of worried, panicked actions could have any effect on the situation, it would only be to make them worse. It would not improve them at all. And so
worrying that you're not going to get everything done in the day,
right,
will not get everything done in the day.
Right. Certainly. Just letting it go. And so what are we talking about? We're talking about analysis paralysis. We're talking about fear. We're talking about inaction, because we did the last time Jason and I had an episode together a couple weeks ago. I wanted to make a point about taking action in your life, in your own life, taking personal responsibility as a form of political solution to the world. And obviously, if you've got analysis paralysis, you've got such fear that you can't get any of these things done, you can't bring yourself to go to church or whatever, then you will not be able to. This is building off of last week is what I'm saying, or not last week, but 2 episodes ago is what I'm saying. The accepting that the outcome of whatever's going to happen, the outcome of the situation, accepting that it's outside of your hands, and it is, but accepting that will allow you to actually take action, because all of the fear goes away as soon as you believe that there is a God in the world who is infinitely powerful and cares about you. As soon as you believe that sincerely in your heart, then you stop worrying about what's going to what's going to be the consequences of these actions. What you need to be worried about is what I'm doing biblical or not? Is it right or not?
Would God be pleased with my action?
Yeah, would God be pleased with my actions?
Is this a glorifying thing to him?
Right. Not what's going to come of it. So I knew this.
Right.
I knew this
because uncomfortable things might come from you doing godly things.
Right.
It does not mean that you will be comfortable, but
right.
It does mean you will be content and joyful. Maybe not happy, but joyful. Joy is
transcendent.
Joy is transcendent of happiness. Joy is godliness.
Yeah.
Is living in godliness and acceptance.
Yeah.
You will be at peace. It's peace.
Right,
Joy
exactly.
is
peace.
Being at peace, even if awful things happen to you.
Right.
But you know that you did what was godly and right, and you're not in an anxiety meltdown because you feel like you caused all that stuff.
Right.
You say, even though everything went to poo after I did X, doing X, I'm convinced by prayer and study of the scriptures that I did what God wanted me to do in that circumstance.
Right.
And yeah, my wife is angry with me because she doesn't understand that I did what was right by my conscience. She would rather me have done what would have kept us comfortable.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so you are analysis paralysis is a symptom of fear. If you are, and what is analysis paralysis? Analysis paralysis is sitting there thinking about all the different ways that you have to address this situation. You're trying to write a story. You're trying to do a project at work. You're trying to go to church. Let's say you're trying to go to church. Let's use that as an example. Analysis paralysis would be never actually picking a church to visit and just sitting every week, week in, week out, looking at the social media of each church.
It would be better to flip a coin.
Right.
Draw names out of a hat. So here's 5 churches in the area. I have no idea how to narrow them down.
Right. And just go.
Start going to one.
Right. Because that is acceptance. That's submission and acceptance. You are submitting to the law of God, which is that you ought to worship him communally on the Sabbath. Mm-hmm. And you are accepting that by attempting to do that in good faith, the outcome will be good for you.
I think important to that would be at the same time praying and saying, God, I don't know how to choose a church. I'm going to start going to this random one.
Yeah.
Show me if it's good or not.
Right.
Help me to learn and get into prayer, get into the scriptures, study the scriptures. When they read a passage of the Bible, open to it so you make sure they're actually reading.
Yeah.
Or bring your own Bible in case they have a weird translation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a whole, I guess that's my caveat, is you could pick a really heretical church, potentially.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
But
is
as you learn the scriptures, study them on your own as well, so that you are not only depending on that one church that you picked at random.
Right.
And you end up going and joining a cult by mistake.
Right. Well, what I mean is that God is not going to let a good faith, regenerate Christian fall into heresy.
Not a regenerate, no.
He's not going to let that happen. So, So
I think you could make some significant mistakes and have some really, really bad theology.
Sure.
So I don't know about.
Yeah,
I don't know if
Baptists
I'd quite
out
agree
there.
with that. Oh, spicy.
Yeah. So the point is that it's just don't. That's analysis paralysis. Is taking too long to analyze things and try to decide what the right course is. My dad, I always bust my dad's balls about this because it took him. He was just trying to buy new televisions for our house one time when I was in middle school, and every Sunday after church for 3 months we went to Best Buy, and he would just ask and compare and on TVs, TVs. Just forever. It took him so long to decide which TVs he was going to get, which entertainment, all-in-one universal remote he was going to use. He finally got it all, ordered it all, got it. Within a year, it was all obsolete. What the thing that he pinned the whole house to, there was this Google box that Google used to have that was this revolutionary technology with this big universal remote. And it did all this stuff, and it controlled all the TVs and all the speakers and everything. Within a year, Google didn't even support it anymore. You couldn't turn them on. And my dad spent 3 months trying to figure out what was the best thing, and so it's just,
And you wonder why I hate technology.
yeah.
It's that kind of stuff where it just drives me insane.
It's obsolete
gadgets.
because it was an improvement, because it was the market decided.
Until the next one.
Yeah, and then the next one's an improvement.
No, because then they don't work well. They haven't been tested thoroughly enough to work really well. That's my point. There's so many bugs in the new. If you're progressing so fast, you never have a chance to get good at anything and really support it. Then you're just.
We'll have that.
You're forcing the consumer. Different.
We'll do this. We'll do this
a
different episode. Because that's a good conversation. But that'll kill an hour quick.
Yeah. And put me in a foul mood. I gotta go drive a fence post.
I had to go use a hand tool.
Bang, bang, bang. See, the post pounder is something they perfected.
The post pounder is something they perfected. They did it. You know when they perfected it? When they attached it to a diesel engine and a drill. That's when they perfected it.
I'd like to see them get on my slope property.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. That's a good point. Can you attach it to a donkey?
Yeah, I don't dispute that it's better, but can it get up my mountain?
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. I just thought of another thing to say to that, but I can't. We'll cut it. We'll nip it in the bud right there. So acceptance and submission as a solution to your problem for being a sissy and not getting anything done. If you are afraid that you are going to mess something up, why would you endeavor to do it? But if you accept that God is going to take care of you and that you are outside of your authority by deciding to not engage in a world God has instructed you to engage, then you can begin to conduct yourself in a way that allows you to work. And a big part of that is that you can accept the fact that your mistakes are part of God's plan. They are part of God's plan for you. And it's not, that mistake is not, although, yes, if you begin to do programming or whatever and you accidentally break the thing that you were trying to You
Don't go to your boss and be like, it's predestined.
yeah, you crash the website, whatever, you got to get it back, whatever. It may seem like that's backsliding to you, but it's actually progress. The world changing is by its nature progressive, because God's plan for history is by its nature progressive. So anything that occurs
You're
is...
saying it's not conservative?
I'm saying it's not. Yeah, I am. Hey,
Hey, here we go.
guys, guess what? Not a conservative. The
I want things to remain the same. Can you imagine a conservative before Jesus came and died?
that yeah, I can. They write about them. They're the Pharisees,
Oh, yeah. The Pharisees, the original conservative.
the original conservatives, Pharisees.
No, change bad.
No, yeah, we have to kill this guy. So
They write about them.
so everything, all change is progressive, because God's narrative arc of history is progressive, and this also ties into a few episodes ago when we talked about viewing hardship not as something that's bad that's happening to you, but as something formative, and so it's actually good. I know that like
Yeah. Gold is refined through fire.
Yeah.
The Bible uses that illustration.
yeah
Would it feel good to get melted down
yeah
so that your icky parts can be scooped off the top and you're made into a more pure version of yourself?
Absolutely. I'll give
Nope,
you
it sucks.
two
Fire
examples.
hurts.
Yes, fire hurts. I'll give you two examples.
Fire bad, fire hurt.
When I was young, something very bad happened to me, and it altered the course of my life permanently. And you would say, "Oh, that thing is inherently bad. It's condemned in the Bible. It's a bad thing." But now, sitting here as an adult, if I had the choice to undo what happened to me, I would not, because it formed who I am. When I was 16, I took a hallucinogenic drug and had a very, very, very sour experience. It is something that many people would point at and say was bad, but I would not undo it, because it made the film between me and my conscious mind and everything else. It thinned that film, and that is a huge part of the reason why I suffer from some of the, tortured aspects of my psyche that I do, but it's also a huge part of the reason why I'm capable of being creative. And so God used that as what man intended for bad, God has used for good. God used it ultimately to create something beautiful. I'm not saying that I'm like, whatever. That's not what I mean. I'm not like tooting my own horn or whatever, but you get the point. And here's the point about pride. Anything you look out in the world and you go, man, that's just despicable. I can't believe God would allow that to happen. That is you thinking that you can perceive reality truly enough that you understand whether or not that person being homeless is good or bad. You don't get to decide whether or not it's good or bad. That's not up to you. God has some grand plan. He has a grand plan for all of this stuff that we don't know. We don't know what his goal is. And that person sitting on the side of the road being, some retarded junkie somehow doesn't compromise the plan. And so it is not a function of God's faultiness. It is not a function of a faultiness of this argument. It's a function of your pride that you would look at any aspect of reality and decide,
I know better than God.
I know better than God to allow this to occur. Now,
I were God for a day.
Right. If I were God for a day, there wouldn't be any gay people. Like, whatever, whatever it is that, like, God has allowed people to believe that being homosexual is like a mode of being. He's allowed that to occur. We don't know why. Why would he allow that? It looks like it creates tremendous suffering and disease. That's what it looks like. I cannot possibly hope to explain why God would allow that. It's not my job, and I have no right to hope that I could understand why. But God has allowed it to occur. it is up the thing that you should be concerned with is not whether or not things are good or bad. It's that you conduct yourself in line with what the Bible teaches you to conduct yourself in line with. So that's the only thing that you need to focus on. And you're going to fall short of that all the time. And that's fine. It's totally okay. Because Christ made a sacrifice that nullifies that evil. So you don't have to beat yourself up about it. You can just know that you're forgiven and move on. So I know what I'm saying might to many people be controversial because I've said this to people before and
they took it as controversial.
But I guess one of the things that I could say is that I was describing to my mom once the way that Emily and I conduct our marriage, and the sort of submission that the Bible, we believe the Bible requires from our wives to our husbands. And my mom's number one concern was, what about dudes who beat their wives? And my response was, what about them? That's not what I'm talking about. If I was talking about...
Well, the response is, what does the Bible teach husbands?
Right. To not beat their wives.
To love them.
Right.
Right alongside, in the same verse or the very next verse, husbands, love your wives. Wives, submit to your husbands.
Right. Right.
So one of them is disobeying God.
Right.
The husband can be loving the wife can be in rebellion, and she's sinning against God because she's not submitting.
Right. And so you're not making by being like...
Well, some people abuse
their wives, and so
some
you know
people
what, those
abuse
wives,
the authority they have, so therefore they shouldn't have the authority. Some cops are bad, therefore we should have no cops.
Or some cops are bad, therefore you should rebel against the authority of police cops in general.
Yeah. You should never pull over for them, and if you do, make sure you ridicule them.
Right.
Call them pigs.
Right.
Refuse to get out of the car.
Remind them of your rights constantly.
Some of them respectfully need that.
Yes, of course. Yes.
I've seen videos both ways.
Yeah, Abigail was a character in the Bible. She went against her husband's wishes. She gave David food. She was spared, and David married her, and her husband was killed because of it.
By God, not by David.
God, not by David.
Abigail prevented her husband from being killed by David in David's wrath.
Right.
So Abigail spared both David and Nabal.
Right. So
and then got to marry David as a reward.
Right. And the solution to a husband abusing his power against his wife is not for the wife to disobey God. It's the same thing with abortion. Like, what about if the baby is from incest? What then? Okay, I don't think that. Listen, we all agree.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Right, we're not going to murder a child because someone was raped.
We're going to shoot someone out of a crowd because somebody else got shot.
Right? Yeah. There's nothing. It's
all right. We'll make it right. Blam.
Right. Exactly. So, it isn't up to you to be concerned, just like it isn't up to the wife to be concerned with the malfeasance of the husband. It is not up to you to be concerned with what's going on in the world writ large.
That's not to say that she should stick around and get beat all the time.
Certainly not.
So we are not advocating that. That's not
right. But
he's breaking his marriage vows by not protecting his wife and abusing her.
Right. He's nullifying.
She doesn't have to. He's nullifying the marriage contract.
Right.
So we're not saying she has to stay there.
Right. But we are not saying that she should.
Well, no, you're not. You're saying that you're not beating your wife.
Right. I'm not beating my wife.
So because other husbands do beat their wives, it doesn't mean that your wife gets to say, I don't have to obey my husband because some husbands are abusive. Right.
But I'm also saying that in a situation in which a wife is being abused, she has biblical recourse.
Right.
That she can undergo in order to seek justice for herself or allow God to seek justice for her through these avenues. Mm-hmm. But she ought not stay in the house and badmouth her father to the children. She ought not.
Her husband to the children.
Right. Her husband to the children.
She should protect herself and the children by getting out.
Right, by getting out, seeking help from the church.
Right.
Getting out, seeking protection from other men in her life that can.
Law enforcement if necessary.
Yeah, law enforcement, her father, her brothers, her husband's brothers.
Yes.
The men in the church. There are avenues at which God has provided women who are under that particular circumstance to escape. But it doesn't, just like Jason was saying, it doesn't nullify in general the idea that women need to submit to their husbands. And the idea that...
which is the entire argument against the patriarchy.
Right, exactly.
Air quotes.
Yeah. And like if you could say even in a broader sense, if you lived in a society where men in general were abusing their power, the solution isn't women in general to rebel. That's not the solution.
Well, it doesn't mean that God's teaching is wrong.
Right. It doesn't mean God's teaching is wrong.
Well, God shouldn't have made men head of their households because this society over here went way too far.
Right.
And they're all slapping their wives around.
Right. What will almost certainly happen is that society will be conquered and destroyed by some righteous society. And the women who conducted themselves righteously,
it may be decades or centuries,
will be spared more suffering than is undue in God's plan. But again, even now we're getting into this. It's so funny. This is such the default way of being with people that you and I are doing it kind of right now. Like we're still kind of trying to make this like moral argument for why bad things happen. Like we're trying to reason within our minds.
Sure.
Like trying to square bad things happening with our worldview, when what we ought to be doing is going, look, God's got that under control. That's happening as much as God is willing to allow it to happen.
Well, that's not to say you shouldn't do anything about it. That would be wrong if you see something, if you're a bystander to a crime and allow it to happen when you could have done something.
Yeah, well, that falls under the do things.
Well, we're talking about worrying about it and fretting over it.
Right, exactly. Allowing it to take attention from your life and focus it on, whatever.
Worrying about what's happening in Israel and Palestine and letting it affect you actually taking action in your own life is wrong.
Even if you can take action, worrying about it while you're taking the action is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Take the action in a removed, equanimous way that you would derive from trusting God and accepting his authority and submitting to it.
Like you would want to see that calm, cool action figure in the movie doing.
Right, exactly. And
just
one of the
doing
reasons...
it without hardly a flicker on his face.
Yes, yeah.
Like, have you, Band of Brothers, have you seen I'm thinking of Sergeant or Captain Spears. You remember him? He was the one who...
Is he the one that ran through the village?
All the way through the German-occupied village.
Right, and they just
talked to their unit on the other side,
and then
ran all the way back.
Yeah.
Just like, do.
Yeah, and the Germans didn't even start shooting at him till
for a while.
Yeah,
they were just
he was like
dumbfounded.
almost to the other side, and they were like,
"Whoa, what the?
We got to start shooting him." Yeah, and he survived. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, didn't even get hit.
Yeah, the thing that allows me to
conduct your life with that amount of calm and confidence that like, and he says he talks to a Captain Spear, or I don't know if it's Captain at that point, but anyway, Spears talks to another soldier who's freaking out in a panic attack. I don't remember that soldier's name, but he says a soldier has to accept basically that he's already dead potentially.
Yeah,
he has to accept that death is part of it in order to function properly as a soldier.
Right.
And we are soldiers as Christ. We need to function as if like our lives are forfeit for God.
Yeah, and that is the only way that you can have any chance of living.
Yeah,
is
because
accepting
otherwise
the fact that you might die.
Sit there in a fetal position, which this soldier was.
Right.
And that helped this soldier get up, and he did his job, and he eventually died.
Right. He did eventually die.
Yeah, he got shot in the neck by, like, he was taking point. He
Right.
volunteered to take point, I think,
Yeah.
in this expedition and got killed for it.
Yeah.
But he did his job after that. That enabled him to do his job without freaking out anymore.
Right.
That got him past it.
Right. Right.
And that's what we're saying here.
And we're not. Let me be very clear. We are not arguing. We are not trying to help you not die. That is not what we are trying to do.
No.
We are not trying to help you not die. We are trying to help you do those things that you hope you can do and find peace in the moments that you do have alive. That's what we're trying to help you do. You very well may die, metaphorically or otherwise, doing whatever it is that you accept that you're doing. But I've made this analogy before. In fighting, this is a thing that I know very well. It is a huge part of what allows fighters to be successful is whether or not they panic. If you
runners in that final stretch, if they glance to the side, they're going to lose. Because they're taken away from their. You have to stay focused, and if you move, you're losing ground because it's not efficient to run with your head turned to the side.
Right.
You're messing up your momentum.
Right.
And so if you lose focus and go, where's that other guy? How am I doing? How much distance do I have on him? People, they've shown them lose when they do that. They glance, and the guy who's right on their tail takes over.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they panicked.
Yeah.
They worried. They allowed it to get in their head.
And you can beat, in fighting, you can beat people. Now, obviously, skill
has a lot to do with it.
Will usurp this ultimately. But you can, I often do use the fact that I don't panic to win against people who have been doing it for longer than I have and know more than I do. Like, especially in jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Like, I can beat those people because wrestling less so because it's so fast. There's less time to panic. But in jiu-jitsu, that helps a lot. Like, if you have me, I'm a 270-pound guy cranking on you or attempting to get out of something or whatever, and versus you, if I can use my size or whatever, or you try to constrict people's breathing is what, like, you try to sit on the, like the other day, I think I talked about this once, is the other, like,
that will help you to panic.
Yeah, is that this? I was doing some wrestling stuff with a guy who's much smaller than me, but he got up on my shoulders and put all of his weight on my shoulders to like fold
Compress
my body
your chest.
over and press my chest down, so I couldn't expand my chest to breathe, and I couldn't get I was exhausted and I couldn't get any air in my muscles, so I couldn't rest.
Right.
But he was just chilling on top of me.
Yeah.
And he was sprawled out, and so it was really hard for me to get out from underneath him and so whole thing. But
he was in a good position.
Other people panic in those positions where I know even if I pass out, I'm going to be okay. Even if I die, that's it. I've accepted that like death is inevitable, and God knows when I'm going to die. He knows the day and the hour, and I don't, and that's just the way that it is. And so you're in those situations, you are able to not panic and you can work literally every second up until you pass out to get out of that. So you're offered infinitely more opportunity to win that fight by not panicking. Then you can slow your own heart rate down and start using shallow breaths to feed your muscles oxygen, and like you get into a whole different world.
Did you win?
No. Well, I didn't lose either. It was just a draw.
Oh, okay.
Against a guy who'd been wrestling for way longer than I have been.
Yeah.
And so it was a big deal that we drew.
Yeah.
They didn't get my shoulders down.
That was a victory.
Yeah, that was a victory. And I almost beat I don't know what the kid was. He was wearing a white belt, but he was not a white belt. I almost he had to be like a blue or brown. Well, maybe not a brown, but he had to be a high ranking blue belt. And I almost beat him.
Yeah.
Because he just was not ready for me to not care that he had me in an arm bar, and I wasn't worried about it at all. And so I reached, whatever, doesn't matter. I got out of it. I rolled out of it, and then I was way faster than he expected me to be, and I got on top of him and took side control and almost got him, but he tapped me out. I don't know what is going on with my mic, but it's really distracting. Anyways, the analysis paralysis will is a function of panic and fear. And if you accept that things are going to happen that you perceive as bad, if you accept those things and accept that they may not be bad, that maybe God has some grander understanding, if you just quit trying to assign moral goodness or moral badness to things you do not understand and accept that things are just going to happen, and then focus on doing focus on submitting to God's authority and doing what he has described as things that are good and not doing things that he has described as things that are bad, you worry about that, then you will find you're able to take action. We have a young guy who you and I have both talked to several times now, who came to our church and sat in the back, and he, last Sunday to me, said, yeah, for weeks I would come in, I'd sit down, and then as soon as church was over, I'd leave.
Yeah.
And then somebody started talking to him eventually. Somebody caught him before he left and started talking to him. And
I heard about who he was because he was over at somebody's house. My wife told me about him.
Okay.
And then when I went to say hi to him and he said his name, I was like, oh, this is that guy.
Yeah. Okay.
That I heard about.
So, I mean, ultimately, every Sunday now, the number of people who are talking to him is expanded. And
yeah, he's getting in community.
Yeah, he's getting in a community, and he's
harder for him to leave now.
Yeah, harder for him to leave, and he's found a good squad. You know, if it's something that if we all mesh and whatever, then it'll be a great addition to our church, more broadly speaking, and that you can tell he's nervous. Like, he's relaxed now, but like the first time I walked up to him to meet him, he was nervous. The first time I walked up, I met him, he got nervous. Then he started talking to you again, relaxed again, was chilling. And then somebody came up to him and introduced themselves, and he got nervous. It's just nervous meeting you get nervous meeting new people. Mm-hmm. But he didn't back down from that. You know, he faced his fear, whatever. He stayed chill. So now he seems to be making some friends at church, which is exactly what we have been encouraging everybody to do for however many months we've been recording together.
Yeah.
If you are scared, if you are scared, you're not going to move. You're going to be like the soldier in a foxhole who's just hiding. You know, you just curl up.
You can be scared. It's bravery that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
if you let your fear overcome you.
Yes.
Yes.
If you let that be the dominating.
Right. Right. And panic is often a derivative of you trying. You're not accepting the way you feel. You're not accepting the reality of the situation around you. Your like psyche on its most base level is like rebelling against just the very nature of the situation.
This can't be happening.
Yeah, this can't be happening. Exactly.
No, you're in a war zone.
Yes, no, you are in a war zone. You're being shot at. You are probably going to die. Now stand up. And
it would be best if you shot back.
Yes, stand up. And
we'd all appreciate it if you shot back.
Yeah, be of some use.
Get some rounds off before they take you.
Yeah, be of some use. And
die with honor.
Certainly. I mean, why would you... Listen, dude, if you're going to die, why would you want to die snot running out of your nose, crap in your pants, just scared out of your blood?
Yeah.
Yeah. Die
Nobody
standing.
wants to die like that.
Yeah, die standing at least. At least die standing.
Mm-hmm. Pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, pointed in the right direction.
Pointed towards the enemy.
Yeah. And so we've been speaking, this did end up being kind of a convoluted episode that's a little removed from practicality, but
it's the abstract. We could talk about.
Yeah, I guess you're right. We
could talk about it. You have to be
I'm not
the
accepting
abstract
right now.
before you.
You know what's happening? I'm not accepting right
Are you
now.
panicking?
I'm panicking. A little bit. I'm a little bit over here like, oh, this is a bad episode. Spike the mic. It's a bad episode. Somebody do something funny.
Are fart jokes too much?
Yeah. Can I say the N-word?
We could possibly do an episode on practical.
Yeah, we could. We could follow up. We could do a follow-up episode on practical stuff. We are at we're over our hour here.
We're over
our
hour.
Time
to shut this down.
Let's shut it down.
I think they got the point.
Good. Okay. I'm glad. So that's it. That's the episode, guys. Listen, you have to accept that you might drown if you want to get in the water. And what are you going to do, dude? That's where all the pretty girls are. They're in the pool. Sorry, bud. That's the reality situation. And that's just the way that is. And you can either rail and squirm and fight and waste a bunch of energy doing nothing and getting nothing done, or you can accept that life is full of hardships and not a single one of them has meaning assigned to it that you can understand fully. And so you ought not even attempt to do that. You ought to just focus on doing the things that you know to be right. You ought to be focused on telling the truth. You ought to be focused on being a servant of the Lord and a slave to his will. And if you can shift your focus to those things, then the action, the doing will, that will follow. So that's a good point. I want to make that point right before we get off here. Okay. I've been in therapy for a while. At no point did me starting this podcast, doing the writing, working towards starting Hyper Premium, getting the promotion, like seeing the career success I've seen at my day job. None of those things came from me focusing and going, I gotta sit up and I gotta make the phone calls and I gotta do this and I'm gonna Jocko Willing radical responsibility. I'm gonna do it on my own. None of that was what got me to where I am today with a beautiful wife and a happy daughter and a nice house we care about and a successful career and attempting to start a small business like that. None of that is what got me here. It wasn't it was taking care of whether or not I accepted God's authority. It was addressing that problem. That was the thing that ordered the rest of my life. So if you can focus on that, if you can focus on the parts of your psyche, the parts of your will that are rebelling against God's authority and resolve those, then the particulars of your life, the practical aspects of it, those will order themselves. If you can bring your will into alignment with God's will, everything else will take care of itself. Maybe, Jason, you might have some thoughts about how to do that as our closing statement here. Maybe. Nope. Okay. Read some scripture, pray, I would say. Those are good places to start. Okay. There we go. This is good.
That was a good episode.
Okay. All right. Guys,
I'm pleased with it.
We love you. We're praying for you. We are praying for you. I pray for you guys at least twice a week, I would say. Probably at least twice a week.
I do whenever I think of it.
Yeah. So pray for us. Pray that Hyper Premium goes well. Pray that I don't get found out and fired for saying the N-word or faggot or whatever on a podcast before this starts making enough money to pay for my family's food. You can pay for that. Pray for that. Anything else? You good?
Go to church.
Go to church.
Find a wife. Make babies if you can.
There we go. We love it. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.